out of office by mainly the Tanzanians and with the help of some Ugandans, and it has gone on like that. The current leader, Mr. Museveni,
is also most likely to be bombed. Do you want to say like that?
Well, he bombed his way into office, and we were together at that time. So I know about that bombing that brought him to office in 1986.
Yeah.
And he has been in power now for nearly 40 years. So that is the history of Uganda. That whoever, since Uganda was created by force of guns. It has been maintained, whoever leads it by force of guns since it was created. That is the reality of Uganda. It is a different reality in Kenya. It is a different reality in South Africa. There are different realities. Now, what does this mean? And I want our listeners to listen carefully to understand the problem that we face. Because I've said that Uganda is a creation of force and it has been led by force. I was part of the force that took power in 1986. On the 26th of January that year, we read what was called a proclamation, which said that on this day, the National Resistance Army has captured the power of state of Uganda. The army issued a declaration that it had captured the power of the state of Uganda. That declaration was called Legal Notice number 1 of 1986. And that it had vested it, the power it had captured, that it had vested it in the National Resistance Movement. So power was captured by the army and vested in the movement. I was both part of the army and part of that movement. And that power will be held for only 4 years. And that after 4 years, the transition will be over, power will be handed to the people of Uganda. That was the arrangement. Of course, power has never gone back to the people of Uganda. And it was the failure of that transition that was promised which caused me to break with the NRM. Because actually, I was at the top of managing that transition. I was the National Political Commissar and the minister in the president's office. And the role of the National Political Commissar was to oversee the politics of the transition. Yes. Maybe let me just reach it. The role of the NPC was to manage the transition. And while NPC, I realized that that transition was not going well. That actually, rather than preparing to hand over power to the people of Uganda, I realized that power of the movement, which had been vested in the movement, was actually being grabbed by the leader of the movement. So the movement was not the one exercising power. The power that had been vested in the movement had been also grabbed by the leader of the movement, Mr. Museveni, had grabbed the power of the movement. So meetings of the movement were not happening. Only one man was making decisions. The army too was captured. The army was not functioning as it should. The army had also been captured by the leader of the army, who was also the same leader. So the movement, the army were all captured. And that's what caused me to disagree with Museveni, because I was charged with overseeing the transition that was going wrong. And when I started talking, I was instead dismissed. So I left government in 1990. When 1990 was supposed to be the end of the transition, when power was supposed to be handed over to the people. So after the 4 years, I was sacked from government. And those problems continued because one man had captured the power of the movement and of the army. And this was the reason I wrote a document in 1999 talking about how NRM had been captured. The document that caused my problems of being court-martialed. So, the problems the country experiences, including the problems that the parties you are asking about experience, come from that time of capturing the whole state, capturing all institutions of the state, including the military that had taken power. And I'm going to explain to you how that has developed since that time.
I mean, Uganda, the first nata Uganda. Mame se kutoskole no Kenya, I mean no India, also the South Africa. Inerda bonisi beda tu kwese kamera pugari kapa NRA. Aja kwesa lo skine te keche na apoloda. Anyu nda bonbe e wili lo itonga. Esa beta pugari aitop. Konyeda bubo after 86. Obukwa ni ajore osodi atukotongino NRA. Odo akani na Mr. Museveni. No buda oina kationis ensuli poa mesekin. Baibudo kwa nelo si akwap. Anin nerenes baina kita inesi kapa political commission ngoni lo IIT politics. Arucho kiti is civilian kode ajore kepuga ela jokan. Etamanesi ayauna kekronu epo. Bekwani angona pakina epolo. Emama seo. Bia ido kwa nakronu. Alos kineta no angareto ni oitui mame topetai no puga ela jokana ra democracy ara etopolo akwap ara inakina boiso ni po adumu liborolu abet boronu kere opoto nangata I mean 1990 hire kininesi be esi kwani mame buni apedo na swam kapuga ni osoda dumlesi alachu ne document lo apola ke gogong na kama nara kude aimena pugana Museveni na anakopani ejai ayongo abu sune tunganane poni kamarai ajore osode pate keraja si akana Museveni osoda yanga ne so court martial aro court ngonilo ajore eto osa nesi anunesi apela la chula kekrona omitesi be barasinu abeit inete dabo nesi bepuga elo ejoko mamebuni achao na no Uganda na arai ijata roni ara tutubena nu ipo opono tuko kina eteso lango acholi kabugisu imusugun eta raunu akwap adopeni worota Uganda obuda bobanga kwa nikara kaisa kanyari eutoni eji adumre puga ikini bonarai independence obwanga Uganda ojao So mamu Uganda jo ipedore tutubune siko de Rwanda, tutubune siko de South Africa, arare tutubune siko de India. Gite ponelo jara kwap keke pugai. So kwenye net nesibonwe balangir rangini na lo muto political party. Geta lo munu kolo sekine ajari pugai. Mama pakine du muto Uganda. Arai aseone patana a peaceful handover of power. Mami akige uno bote obu ina mamutesa lemar osodi amin gente suda bubu amin ele mata katoro osote kwesa lo sito itwi eti jeja kaito bote o mito za kwesa bonbe belose kwese nyakunu puga la joka na re freedom aina kinitonga so ineritness bonbe mame patana again independence mamo ni ido mot ponele tonga puga kini bonik osota anyu na los kine tena joka pugani so nesinu hitamtamtemuro.
Yeah, so the starting of our problems started with the capture of all our institutions. We should not think that, for example, the Bank of Uganda is our bank. It is a bank of Museveni, because he has captured all the institutions. The Uganda police is not Uganda police, it's a Museveni police. The Uganda People's Defense Forces is not a defense forces for us, it is a defense force. So all these institutions were captured. Having captured the institution, the next thing that was captured was our economy, our wealth. You remember Uganda had assets, materials, goods, wealth that we owned jointly, which included the factories, which included the banks, which included the transport companies, Uganda Airlines, Uganda Railways, Uganda Bus Company, Uganda what. All these were owned jointly by us. Uganda hotels. Here in the Soroti, there was Soroti Hotel, there was Tororo Rock Hotel, there was Mbale Ergon Hotel, the Ginger Crested Cranes, those Sheraton hotels, Nairo Hotel, were all, every town had Uganda hotels, which were all our properties. Uganda Commercial Bank had a bank everywhere in Uganda. All these things were captured and taken and personalized, privatized to themselves, became personal property. They said they were selling them so that the money is used elsewhere. No Ugandan has ever been told what became of those properties once they were sold. How much came out of it? Where is it? All of it was simply privatized to the same people. The only thing that has remained contentious is land. And in the Constituent Assembly, Mr. Museveni tried a lot to give power over land to the government, that they can take over land. That was the only thing I think that the Constituent Assembly saved. They said no, land belongs to the people. Up to now, there is an effort to change that law, but it has still failed. So now land is also being grabbed by force.
Right, Doctor, let me first go
law.
for a time check, then I'll bring you back again to continue from there.
Is the time?
It's 8. It's 8. That's the time check.
Oh,
It's going.
well, I hope. So, let me take this point to...
Not for me, I explained major about the land and the sale of the to trigger the sellers.
Because that one is
That is what concerned. That is the
that is life.
But it's good to give a background. Yeah, it makes them understand the whole situation.
So the next step is where are we?
Of course, out to poverty.
And where are we going?
The lake has been sold.
And you,
The phone has refused to charge.
Maybe they
Note is 0.
Yeah, no, not everywhere. Everywhere is not. All over the country.
Kanyare, Kanyauni.
It tend to be in Karamoja.
We haven't scheduled yet, but it will be after West
There
Nile.
is
I think when we come on 4th July,
there's another person radio, they can host. Yeah, they can. Then those Karamojans, you do the public address system a day before. Yeah. For them, they will have markets. So the advance team should be there a day. The same person who was here, some guy, she the one managing the radio. She shall always navigate.
for me your number here. What's yours?
Moses Ochoa.
What's yours?
Not Ochoa. Ochoa is with the F.
This organization, Panther what?
There's a band.
Teso Panther.
Kwanza.
Kwanza.
That is
First
the
test of first.
Teso Kwanza.
TK. So tomorrow we shall have this as a bulletin in these local radios. Then around 7 p.m. to 9, it will be the roundup.
91.5 Kyoga Veritas, the most reliable voice, and in the studio we are discussing a lot of issues concerning or pertaining the development of our country, Uganda. And in the studio here we have a group of seasoned politicians, and one of who is Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has come to share with us a lot of issues. Before we went for that brief commercial, he was raising a very important point. But earlier on, I had already asked him that the differences in political parties, including NRM, they have their force. There is a force behind the FDC. Initially was a very strong party in this country. Now we are seeing two FDCs, the one that sits in the headquarters of Najana Kumbi, and the other one that sits in the Katonga roadside, the functions, all these things. But we are saying, where are these things leading us in this country? Are we creating room for NRM to overpower us, the citizens, including political parties? The opposition political parties, they are fighting each other. Yes, let me bring back Doctor, who was raising a very important point there. He was saying this country needs something different.
Yeah, so, John, what I was explaining, and it's important that our listeners understand where all this comes from. I told you that it starts with the use of force to capture power, the use of power to capture wealth, to capture the economy, and I've told you that everything in our economy is now captured. whether those which belonged to all of us together were sold and privatized to themselves. I've told you that even now lakes, you find the lake is privatized. People who were depending on the lake to fish and get and look after themselves cannot. People have been tortured and killed over the lakes that they depended on for their livelihoods again. And I talked about the privatizing lakes a long time ago. They even wanted to take me to court. That time I was in Amolata talking about what was happening to the people of Amolata over their lake, this same lake of Kyoga. So the NRM, Mr. Museveni, who captured NRM, who captured all institutions, captured the economy, and has been imposing high taxes to the people of Uganda, extracting whatever you earn. Whatever you get, he siphons it through taxes and it's taken away. The result of all that is what we are seeing today and dealing with. First of all, massive poverty all over the country. In other words, poverty has been turned into a weapon. People are controlled by poverty, which has been constructed deliberately. Once you are poor and you are on the wall, they give you 1,000, you clap and do what the one who has given you wants you to do. So, that was the first phase of state capture. When we came out and protested and fought, started a strong fight in the elections from 2001, then another tool was brought in, or two tools were released. First of all, money. Commercialize politics. Buy people to do what you want, because they have already been made poor. So money started being powered in elections. Secondly, militarize the elections. So when there is an election, it's like there is an outbreak of war. You find armored vehicles, tanks, mambas, moving all over the place, deployment of soldiers, the military, the police, so that people fear and do what they want. And I have already talked about the institutions that manage elections. The Electoral Commission, which is supposed to control all these things, is not the Uganda Electoral Commission, it's a Museveni Electoral Commission. So, I personally have participated in 4 elections, and that's why whenever I'm in Teso, I feel so privileged, because when I moved out of the movement and started opposing it, the people in our people in Western Uganda had not seen what I was saying. They did not see it. The people in Buganda were not seeing it, because Museveni was frightening them, saying, you know, we liberated you from these people of North. We liberated you from the killers of UNLA. He was bringing photographs of scars. They will come back and finish you. So he was making himself a hero of Southern Uganda against Northern and Eastern Uganda. So when I challenged him, the warmth and support that I received most, and which I needed, because they were hounding me, was from Teso here, from Acholi, from Lango. And that's why I tell you, even now, when I am in a Teso, I sleep soundly because of the love that I have enjoyed here, the support that we enjoyed, because of what was happening in those elections. Now, I've told you we have since contested 4 times. These 4 things have multiplied many times. The commercialization of elections, the militarization, and the control of the institutions that manage elections. And these are what have resulted into what is happening in political parties now, which I am going to explain to you. Maybe my brother can translate.
Enere nesi bonibe opono gulara iboro kere e banka la yaiti akor la jai ngini region aje banka lo ayaita akor pono gulara iboro lu ipokate airline o Uganda kate agali osodi ayumi chori katleki ubore Kyoga ada na gulara inete dabu bonesi bonbe eja seo ne Uganda esobiti bale rai e battlefield ejiele polo ejajore ejai police ejai dobo kwanina lomu enere nesi be gweti nesa seo iru ana ngono ada onese gweni nesi ano eile peso aseo nesi kapa president kunye ningo sitina e polo itosoma NRM kapuni adoketa itina e polo osode commission ngoni le yaiti nesi kape commission lo o Uganda mabera no Uganda era ngone commission a president Museveni le limonora nesi ase one kokota etuni nesi in neda bubu nesi Besigye president Museveni amumu isto somai o ni lo teso lo lango lo acholi kangunu da west nine lo mutorami olimoni kinunbe pote ngono areso so aja inesi ama ikini tunga kui lu obukeche be mami teseroko era singunu le joka kadu sodi choli na mameroko odumuni nesi support le langir lo ibecho kina anyona no teso lango acholi inetu dabu bonesi bichani lu ayapu ganine Uganda aina kitunga achamunu isirigini kate lu kumiti isirigini lu kumiti boni sigwela raja koni pedori nara kwa niba korulu opono lemara ichoman lu aya uneteti aswamu nene jatu monak alemari ngun ibi boroda kere agwelari ke tunga osode ke saja sabunda boni bika punulu elosio kwa neto soma dukia Uganda konyi borolu agwelari kati Bank of Uganda rai kalamu 7 ese yaite banka ngolo Uganda mambo berai echetwene yaite banka nguni inerita ikwani airlines lidege ingunu ejaskesa kwineni osori business silu ipukere mamu Uganda bokapa kwap imeda ikape country itwaneoni kwenye lipidi donesi itunga kere alemari aletiakatiaka utupite tete mina tekerikoni eriagi koni oso ne lomuto rijo bala nesi nera be mamu 7 pedori ajaunu aseo o mama jore o mama police o mama tisirigin silipiti nesi tungalu ipo amesiki na bombe teso eja inesi teso kapa nesi Dr. Besigye eja ineso re mam nesi jai awai ipero nesi ajo inapakina kunya kironu utakwa nesi etamitama atiaka ngini na political parties ara political organizations eraka na Museveni ese jai toma aikori kapun anu aina itunga atiaka anu aya uniborebaka ikam abumsugun divide and rule aitiake eso dodo kwa nese pegeta ne ya unesa seo anaribo nesi asaseo sakiro nguna kotonga mike nesa tekera bongona ara ngole Julia kotonga sa tupiti ejoko nwelimni nesi esina sipoeni ngo kejulaki nesu ejokito ikito saki.
All right, thank you for translation. Yes, let me get back to Doctor. You wanted to raise a point which I asked earlier, the differences, the divisions among political parties.
Yes, I have just been laying the background so that our listeners can understand the environment in which political parties have been formed and are functioning. That political parties were formed in an environment where there is no freedom, where in fact there is a state of terror that is used against members of our parties. I think anybody who lives in Soroti or Teso will know how much tear gas has been powered in these towns whenever we are here to make sure that you don't function. So that is the background in which political parties have been formed, where there is a lot of fear that is driven by the militarized government. Two, they have been formed in an environment where politics has been commercialized. In order to be elected, you must spend a lot of money to get elected. And yet, the population has been made poor. So, you need a lot of money to be elected. The people are poor, they need the money. And the only one with the money is the one who captured the economy of the country. The other environments that have been created is that the capture of the state also in many ways led to capture of the media houses. First of all, the state itself owns very many media houses which are influential. UBC, Radio Uganda, Bukede, Vision Group of companies, Etop, Lumuli, Rupini, many media houses that are controlled by the state, through which they communicate information aimed at confusing the population. And of course, they have hired very many people to keep on the radios speaking for them. That's the work of the RDCs. I think from this year they have increased. I heard them saying they are going to have 3 deputies of the RDCs everywhere. And that is what they have been using. So, the political parties, to survive in this environment, they have to think very hard and act smart. Because political parties of the opposition have no money. If they have to contest, they must contest and structure their campaigns in a manner where they will have to get their whatever they get without use of money. They must fight against the terror of the regime and the propaganda and the divide and rule that the government employs. And that's why some of us, after the 2011 elections, thought we must have a different approach. And we started, and you remember after the 2011 elections, I also stepped down from the leadership of the party. I had just been elected in 2010 for my second term of the party, but I stepped down because I realized that what was needed in the country was a different approach. So I stepped down from Najana Nkumbi, and that's when Katonga actually started. Katonga started in 2012. I left the party and went to Katonga, not to do party work, no, but to now start a resistance that was not based on party activities, a resistance which would unite all people that are being terrorized and marginalized. And that's why...
Maybe before, did you go there as FDC in 2012? Did you go as FDC, or it was not on the agenda to go there as the FDC?
I went there with the FDC complete knowledge. And what I was going to do was also going to involve them. It was not to act outside what the FDC was doing. But the reason we set up Katonga was that we now started resistance that was not partisan. And in Katonga, in fact, at that time, we created a pressure group that was called Activists for Change, A4C. And Activists for Change was the one that conducted the demonstrations that were popularly known as walk to work demonstrations.
Yes.
They were being organized from Katonga and involving all parties. It was not just FDC, they were involving all parties. In fact, the coordinator of the walk to work campaign was from DP. Matthias Mpuga was the coordinator of the walk to work. So, there was a difference in strategy adopted from 2011. From just not having or focusing only on elections, but focusing on what we call defiance or resistance against what the government was doing.
Yes.
In other ways other than elections. Those of you who have been following the party work, some of our leaders in the party did not like the defiance. In fact, opposed it. And we had a big debate in FDC between defiance and what was called party structure building approach. So in other words, for us, the first division or the first disagreement, if you like, or contradiction was on the strategy for the party to use.
And nesi, but yon sina ija ini poitungalu etamtos amenita kekiro. Eda unaseo na ajai bunesi EM from the party active. So losine saduku nukwani eke party mwori Katonga abo siti na yengi anesi. Anuaru choki ni party ikerelo wa Uganda. Amini kapalu epedorete ejie adomo na pedore. Alitamtamiti nesi besa patala yait aruchokiti alo sirikake ya swam eke kirorai masias imponga alelo mtu Democratic Party aniteti bonesi da bonbebe kamara pugani mamerai edope pate bone pedori ekotitunga lipo oja se toma inerda bonesi bipuak akironu swama pugani no ya propaganda ara ya ara disi sulipo enero radio itosoma ekwani ke radio no ngunulu etachesi kapun onani net nese top net nese dabu television ngole baka UBC dodi tunga ngunu enere akironi pobe ya uno kwanese PDM are mame sise unete mama se ongini ijaun inera bonesi be etapa silu aijene na itunga mami tunga lipwe pedote bobo aomom na imuri kikiri anweka mara pugani nara kwenye radio ligweta njoke baka ibaya une myoga baya une PDM aya unyo oina ni tunga atupidido kwa ninu utasi kwenere kwenye nese balabo nesi akekiro kerene swama inesi kapa amume defiance sara ingunulu amengeri kitosa kisele ajene pate ngoni le FDC aruchokina kwesi ojeni rabonbe Katonga da jasiki atunga lu agogo anwega ngakini kwesi au koreja kaiti Museveni na pugani itamtamiti buda dabu bombe BTG enare mamera ibore patana ekotojo titi pedote vena ara jo pedote vena kamari jo sakrong nu kere no enere nesi kama la koditonga emor kikini kapa lu tepegeta pugal osote aswam nare nere nesi bonbe bado ketaiti na ichan lu ayaung ipo edu kutukwesa tukotongin na iproje alimu bonbe munulu ebo maina no idu lakini activists mean for change nesa dukuni anuitunga ngunu kere efom ngone group ngone dopet la pedo ra yaunu ejulano ne Uganda konye nu keri wanyujo bitunga lipu mame pedo rete tepega pugan narai imamos kudi sirigin inakindo kwa na pugani agweli tunga lo yaunete kwesi kere besoma no snepepe dumun yongunu kere bilaro kaanga itamtamiti bonesida betiono beraina people enare jaketilo 7 ipiboro lito somai jasko da jore bongot bonesinen jasko de ketunga lo radio jasda bokai tunga no manikinete esimu etu kuriani tunga right to intimidate no manikini jo esimu amiete jamiete konyene sebala nesu bonbe mamnesi iswama ikapesi Dr. Besigye iswama inesa no Uganda kere mama boisiti na ihtia kites kapa na ke nesi kotonesi the United Uganda neba ya omitesa bonbe pedori aswam kagogo anwaya oni julano arai change ngoni likoto oni itosoma ite itungalu kapakina ditungale jai amuno aneo Uganda yalama.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chole, for that translation. You know, the other question before actually I bring in Dr. Back on air is that the cooperation between political parties, it is the all ideology that Katonga existed. Now that Katonga is there, the other political parties seem to have left. They have left Katonga because the common goal there was to fight for a common change, to fight for an enemy. Now that they have left, the NUP has left. We talked about Matthias Impunga, who's also on the other side. The majority of the leaders have actually left. Now that you have remained with a few individuals, with also the chaos between the Katonga and the Najana Kumbi. What do you think can actually unite political parties, starting with the Najana Kumbi? Because we went there not as a party, but as a group to create pressure.
Yes.
I will come back to you after the short commercial break briefly.
Are we going up to 10?
Yeah. Yes.
No worries. Oile, notify Odeke not to come. Let him come at 10. Okay. You send Odeke the message to to come at 10. Not now.
Okay.
We had another show which was meant to start. We are just after 9.
Is it a talk show?
It's just love.
Not just love. Love is a big thing. The other day, doctor was dancing with his wife.
It's the biggest commodity in Uganda.
No, the video that has become too popular on my TikTok is when you're dancing with Winnie.
Even
In 3 days, I have more than 50,000 views. Let me show you. This one is 19,000, this one is up. With many messages, yes. Yes. We are happy when he's in love. But when you talk about this hard talk, people see it, they don't want to comment, they don't want to like. They think, you know, the dictators scared people. They think even they see when you're liking.
So people of fear.
That was yesterday. Here, that's they borrowed the pages.
Gone are the days when magic was hard to find. Now it is in the Sanyuks that we're living in the urban life, the promise of undying love in Hoover, and the battle for power in Domali. The laughter, when the look at progressive butter, that is it. It's celebrating that we are watching our kids shine in their juniors drama club. Hey, and the promises of Kotamix now oozes with his 7 wives on Umpali. All that magic is reloaded
also too much
on
alcohol.
magic.
No, you see sometimes too much
Also, very
propaganda.
big forest in Kapilio.
Hey. Who's that?
Hey, Kapilio. You didn't see him, posting last month about him roasting the pork with the locals.
Hey, he was in
He was in
Kapilio.
Kapilio on his Twitter saying and what?
He didn't say where he was. Actually, I thought it was in Tororo.
No, every day was slaughtering a pig, and he stayed almost a month there. Every day was roasting a pig.
Was
Manipulated the formula of C5
and he gave him back.
through NFA. No, the former, a very big chunk of land. Very big, and vandalized in the district factors using force.
I don't know why those things guys. They still have money. Also sell the property.
Even grab them. Yes, yeah, that's
Now they come, you cheat you as a customer. Eh?
order those government factors to be taken.
Why don't you guys like about those things?
Talk about the fear. You see what we witnessed today. Usually, an average of the journalists that cover events here can be like 25. Even fail to pay them. Then another team invested a lot of money. Make sure that you don't get the coverage. Even them, they wanted the same airtime they wanted to pay. We talk about their cost, but we insist on it. If you want, you come on Friday.
They don't want to pay today. Come and speak about coffee.
So it was a plot to actually stop. They make you leave the video.
Without speaking to the people, yeah.
It's a big battle. And they have a little bit money to buy a most of those media houses. To think like it's a regional fight, a tribal scene. And somehow, in other areas, their message goes. So we really need to do a lot of
transforming the mind.
countering the corrective.
But you see, it is suicidal to isolate yourself as a tribe, eh? That we,
It is, but for them, you know, this migration, they are also journalists who did certificate made from home and they also weigh your capacity as an individual. You know, they weigh your capacity. They may befriend you like their personal friends, some married, you have a barrier until they capture. But what we shall do tomorrow is to break down those events. Then we send editors. You can always bypass a reporter. You deal with the editor.
Yeah, because an editor will get something good.
You will get something
You'll want to
good.
say,
You will want, so it's just
91.5 Kyoga Veritas, the most reliable station, is the radio that you are listening to. And in the studio, we are still discussing very, very vital issues here. And as I told you earlier on, like you have heard, have Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is a seasoned politician, today sharing with us those issues that we want to know. And before we went for that commercial break, it was raising a point concerning the political parties, the genesis of the political parties, their ideologies. Now, recently there was the issue of the dirty money. They termed this as dirty money, that the team from Najana Kumbi had actually gotten money from the NRM party or as government. And the other reason that they went to why he called the team members, some group members, and they went to Najana Kumbi was that they wanted to cause pressure that was all looking for change. Now that we are in this situation, very many political parties, like in Buganda, NUP seems to be taking the ground, and some other parts of the country, there are these other organizations, like here, the Teso Kwanza also seems to be popularly known here. Now, when do we hope to fight for our enemy, if I can also say?
Well, thank you very much. You are mixing up many issues because I hadn't finished explaining to you what has happened within the FDC, which I think I should finish. I first told you, and I think
you can first finish. Then
yeah, it's important.
I'm only giving that so that you have that in your mind.
Yeah, it's important that people understand where all this came from. So I told you that because of the structure that the regime had created, the militarization, the commercialization, the propaganda machine they had built, the capture of the economy, the impoverishment of the population, we had come to the conclusion, some of us, that we needed to change approach, change the strategy from just elections to actually fighting outside elections, which is what is defiance. And that caused the first cleavage within the party, General Muntu arguing for maintaining the building of the party and using the party to fight, and us advocating or insisting on using a fight outside the elections, which would also include uniting the different political formations. The important thing our listeners should understand is that contradictions or differences in parties are not only normal, they are healthy to have differences. The difference is how you manage them. So that difference between our line of defiance and General Muntu's line was managed. It never caused the division of the party. We would argue, present arguments to the delegates conference, to the organs of the party, and the party would decide. And once they decide, we go with that. So, you know, when I stepped down, the election that was held to replace my successor, General Muntu, whom I had contested with 3 times, actually won the election. And you know our elections are very transparent. They are held in front of all cameras. So General Muntu won, and Nandala Mafabi, whom he was contesting against, congratulated him and you know, accepted the loss. General Muntu then ran for 1 term, and in the election that followed, that's when our brother Amriat contested against General Muntu. And this is important that people understand the dynamics, because now there is a lot of propaganda around all this. Some people think that maybe some of us did not support Amriat or have worked against him not to succeed. But first of all, in that election that happened in 2017, there was also a campaign to fight the change in the constitution. That's when Museveni was trying to remove the term limits. And so I joined the campaign, the age limit. And so I joined the campaign of Amuriat, mainly to talk about against the age limit, changing the constitution. And we moved together around Uganda. And we came through Teso, and General Muntu has used that to say that I was the problem, why he lost, that I fought him. Now, in that election, even when we came to Teso, the Teso leaders, all of them were not supporting Amuriat, the one I came with. They were not. Yes.
Which leaders?
All of them, whether it was the MPs then, there was, of course, Alaso, there was Osege, there was Okupa, there was Ariko. Had he been Ariko, everybody, Ochola, all of them were not supporting Amuriat, whom now they claim to be, some of them. But the important thing why we became close to Amuriat is that when he lost the election in 2016, he became very active in Katonga on the Defiance platform. In fact, he was the kingpin. He was our central person in charge of security at Katonga from 2016 until he became party president. Even after he became party president, he remained active at Katonga because he held a lot of our information. The most sensitive information we had at Katonga, he was the keeper of it. And as I have said, that is, and frankly, we thought that if we have Amuriat as party president, who was a Defiance supporter, unlike General Muntu, who had a different approach, we thought that the Defiance strategy would now gain momentum and do greater things. Because, you see, as I have told you, one of the problems indeed that all this politics has is that even at Katonga, we fight on our own, but we don't have institutional support, and we lacked institutional support. The party is an institution. When I led FDC, we did not receive money from government. But during the leadership of General Muntu, the policy of government changed, and they started giving money to parties according to the number of MPs you have. And actually, per MP, almost every party gets 100 million from an MP that you have in parliament. If you have one, you get about 100 million. If you have
5,
you get equally that. So that's why per year, for a whole year.
yes.
So the parties have money and can use that money in a manner that can help liberation. So we were indeed happy that the Defiance person was in charge of the party. And I don't see how we could then undermine the person, because some people even have been saying that I maybe want to become the party leader again. I can never become the party leader of FDC again, because our constitution actually only allows 2 terms. You cannot serve more than twice. Although I never completed any one term, but there were 2 terms in which I served. So I can never be a party leader again. So the point is, we had contradictions, they did not lead to a divide. So what has led the divide when now Amriat is at the leadership of the party? That's why I want to go. First
NRNC, bonibe, obu eso obu kule mugisha muntu, osori nesi eilanya. Ama matio nisina polo potkeso pedosi aswamka petimu. Osori dabo nesi ego muntu kule nandala mafabi. Oponilanyi nandala mafabi. Opatne tekwesi aswam. Ineti nesi dabo nibe. Ajasi itimu ni yare. Defiance inesi lokechi. Osori do pejelo au muntu. La jasi idito ngakapa Honorable Ali Salaso, Honorable Angeli, Honorable Ariko, Honorable Ochola, including Honorable Ibualu. Mamo potu unepeta igangata epoa ara Muriat. Dodo kwani kwesi le bakai eroko timu lo Katonga. Esobu olot ganga empoa. Narai agiritesi alemoro na ausei karamu 7. Egi limiting only car agirit. So ibore ngine sobu oina Dr. Besigye abomun au pain ko depo abe mam erimosi dobero ni Uganda kere anyo nda bon baby pedoro ne tikokin ale moro na kwani ayandu kana le marika ineti nesida bo pot kweso opotu to ni soroti egwa ikini erale la deden ila jeti ya gas esuli puitu to segwa kitai Arrow Square esegwa kitai au sel eri amuno ngini ineti bonesi kapa nesi be mamu nesi emenit power itu undermine nara inesi adauna ketamu inane seja anaki nikape pate president ilo FDC so itunga idis lumame misikitos alos kine tena ajata requesti anyu na bumbi pero requesti kama na pugani kere kapa itimu mamu abaka ibe defiance ara muntu boni ajai kwesi epegeto party iswama ite kwesi kapa nyo itimu doda abo binetu bonesi no epo bonbe alos kinete na ajai na noinobu oina kikwesi achamu aramuri atalo ajai otimu kech oya ite a section ngonlo a security la yiwara ara epo anesing ayaita yiwara otimu ngolo Katonga o just double boko the information la rai very sensitive anu operation kechengoni kere so mame kwesi kwa nali munbe no bitunga beri lu basi bunbe egitos kwesi power aibaje power obwe power odumu avoti na tomo na akanyi aseo ngin obaka ibunbe bi got 15 votes otesa ni esobu odum igwe kina seo ngin aseo na ya uneskape president mami tungala nelu ipo poto chakata arabo iso kati Western Uganda nginankole arai Acholi arai Buganda political parties mama ina nkini kapun konyene kamera umugisha muntu aina nikino kati patele jasko de MP edopet aina ino milioni na kwatata so iji hata yoko de MPC tomon aina nojo 1 billion plus so tupite te kone namba lo MPC lo jasa hii airabete na Poloni so apasa na yai to Besigye party amametisi ligi mamu aina nikino political parties funding dodo kwani kama si lu amuriat lu amugisha muntu odumu olomuni kwa opportunity ngoni of funding nesiri ebala nesi bonbe nesi mamesi IG anu amaria isirigini konya parasa anu ayai to resi de party amo inesi anyu ndabonbe gogongore party dodi isirigini lu esa ya utati akati aka division simun lu group lo da kaje konye nesi ebala nesi bonbe mamu aja ikwesati akataka sekida ngiri konye mamu alo mutotunga apedotos kwesi pegeto tupitete aijene na akuwaro opinion Katonga ne usode sungi na konye mamobu ideleleu adoketai na ara idese une poa kape president obu opai kiswa manara kudikwesi defiance aja inesi ngino office ngoni iswa manara ngini park amamene toro nitukwa ni bonbe be grupulo eserono dodo kwane achonsi na ijaina na lomu elomut otupitete itungalu amamus achama do kwani ne balaboni be e position kosi lo kapali party bilos kwani so aswama do ketaitina satekel murono o waike ijaiki nesi akira uni na sodite balanesi apara sake no yaitoresi e party amame funding for compliance and defiance eso amanara kapitimu amamachi akatiaka na uniet e balanesi bara ide dukun the people's government aje pwada to mapuga ninyen na dukutosi kwesi aswam se mame iborene baka ida bonbe kwesi
supported General Muntu against him, who later felt that they were not being treated fairly and started complaining, and eventually they moved out of the party. Those include, of course, as you know, the Honorable Alaso Sege and other people who were here. They moved out of the party, feeling that they had no justice and space for them to operate. That was a loss. It did not affect the party very much. The party remained strong, but you know, any leaf that goes off the roof, any grass that goes off the roof affects what is happening there. Now, so the problem that eventually caused this major crisis we have came because in 2018, that was 1 year after Amuriat came into office, I called all the leaders of the party to inform them in advance that I will not be a candidate in 2021. And I gave them my reasons and told them that the reason I was informing them that early was that they should select a candidate for 2021 very early, since this will be a new person, so that that person can be popularized well ahead of the elections. That meeting took place at a Catholic center in Namugongo called Choto, 2018. Unfortunately, they did not go ahead to follow it up and choose who would be a candidate in 2021. So when 2020 came, these people came back to me in Kasangati and said, we don't have a candidate. We are sorry, you have to be a candidate again. And I said, no, I will not be. And again, I gave them my reasons. And this went on for some time, going and coming back to put pressure on me to become a candidate. When it was clear to them that I was not going to be a candidate, then they started now. This was now coming to mid of 2020 for the election of 2021, where the nomination actually happens in 2020. So they together, and this happened at my house, not in the party, but at my house. In a consultation, we said now the best thing is you, Amriat, you are the party leader. Since nobody was prepared in advance, you have no choice. You have to put on your shoes, your boots, and move and go. And we all agreed. We said that even to create momentum, first move around the country with Chairman Birigwa as a primary contest, so that you campaign amongst all our people, it gives you exposure and so on. And you may have seen both Ambassador Birigwa and Amuriat moving across the country. But we had already agreed that Amuriat should be the candidate. But following that, they came and said, now we don't have money for elections. And indeed, I know that elections, as I've told you, it has already been constructed. You need a lot of money to conduct a campaign. They said, now, since you were a campaigner before, show us how we get money. And I told them that it is not easy to get money for a candidate that has not popularized himself yet. Because Amuriat had for all the years been campaigning only in Teso. He was not known even in Uganda. And so getting support, getting people to fund a candidate that is not well known is not easy, and I explained to them. And suggested to them that the best approach, rather than looking for money as just FDC candidate, let's look for support for opposition candidates. We unite opposition and say we want support for the opposition candidates. And especially that we fundraise together with the candidate of NUP, who was more known and we could create a joint fundraising approach. That's where the problem started. They said, I want to sell FDC to NUP. And I think that is still being talked out, that now you see Besigye is undermining us. He wants to bring NUP into this. And I said, but how will you raise money? Because we need, if we are to raise money, people give money to a candidate or to candidates. So if we create a joint force, not that one gives up candidature for the other, no, both are candidates, but they are candidates facing the military, and we can call supporters that we want liberation, support all these candidates to liberate Uganda. That is an easier sale. They completely refused, and it was a little while later that, you know, these stories of money started coming. That, you know, money has now come from somewhere.
What they call the dirty money.
What is now popularly known as the dirty money.
Yes.
Please understand that even, and that's the reason I don't talk about dirty money myself. Because that is not the real problem. Even when money has come, it can be used for the purpose for which it was, for the liberation. So the question is not the money, but how it is applied.
Yes. All right, Doctor, before you get to that critical point, let us check time, then we shall bounce back.
Time check on Kyoga Veritas Radio.
You also bite. You also bite. If they are giving you opportunity. Yes.
I think there is water in
There
the
might be water.
It's people have finished it.
It's finished. We had the box.
Yesterday and today, everybody comes to the car to look for water.
You know, throat was hot.
It was hot today again, to be honest. It was very
It was
hot.
real hot. That's why I told the guys open in the what?
But let me ask. Did you find out who had organized the meeting at the sports ground?
What happened in the morning?
After the morning.
No, I have no idea. What I want
Because we were being set up.
Yeah.
Because they had failed to do what they wanted to do in the hall. They wanted us to go to.
And actually give the tear gas.
No.
Not the tear gas.
to have a demonstration against us.
But also the time will not allow. You see, people here are divided. They can actually use the placards, but the main demonstration can be rowdy. The people can be mixed up. That's what I can assure you. The placards, you can talk to 10, 15 and stage money and assume that it's a presentation. But there, you have the traditional FDCs who have the bitterness from the Mokora crisis, from the cattle compensation. Then you bring up the issue of you picking money. They feel betrayed. So you can do an in-house thing, you can stage money. But the bigger one, I don't think whether they can even pay 1,000 people. So even if we had gone ahead with the rally, perhaps what they would only do, maybe to stage money the question, then someone would maybe raise up a hand and ask the
embarrassing question.
I'm told the one I spoke to was a terms money.
Of course, Atan has also been very critical.
Yeah.
A terms PA.
Yeah.
A terms PA. I didn't even know.
So,
I didn't know.
But now we are where's Atana with pardon? He's here with the goats now.
you see, there's a very big contradiction. The member of parliament, the former aspirant for the Soroti West, it's a very big donor to Atan financially. So it's just a matter of time. They will cross body the big one. And I'm sure one of them will need this group to counter the other one. It's just how you guys are going to play your cards. But Atan is also on a slippery ground. Very slippery. It's just a perception that the sympathy is there. But once they blow their whistle, like this tweet, and candidates increase, opinion will shift from the by-election to the real election. Then, of course, on the other side, Nandala is undermined. That he can deliver the whole Kumam vote. Boy is a bit suspicious about Ebualu. But Nandala is there with a whole heart because of the presidential ambition. And Ebualu has created a situation like he's a ping pong of the Kumam. The Kumam is here.
That doesn't tell you the Kumam, eh?
So he's here. If I'm lying, he can tell you in your inner circles, which I don't want to know. So the perception of Nandala is to keep Ebualu. With all the things, with assumption, is going to deliver the Kumam vote. But if these people also organize and present themselves as the candidate in the West, it will be a different story. So even them, they know what is happening, but they have no choice. They are off guard. They must admit the situation at hand.
Who are the majority?
What's the time now?
It is the constituencies West. It is purely
It's 9.
the Kumam. Then the other one would be for HSC.
When do we take calls?
Maybe half past.
Half past.
But maintain what I've told you. They can also stage manage.
No, go 20 minutes to. Not half past. 20 minutes to 10.
20?
20 minutes to 10.
So we have covered up there. We are now coming up to the money itself.
Yes.
You've left out the part that they told you.
Eh?
You've left out the part where they told you that this has gone on too long.
Yes,
And again, to your Kyoga Veritas 91.5, the most reliable station. We are talking about the uniting Ugandans in order for us to benefit as citizens. Now, Dr. Kizza Besigye was raising a point that when he was there as the party president, money used not to come. I don't know whether it was not in the constitution that money has to be provided. This time around, we hear about money coming to political parties.
No, I think you are, you are mixing them. The money coming to political parties now, formally from government, is provided for under the law.
That is very good.
It is under the Political Parties Act.
Under NCF.
Yes. And it is disbursed through the Electoral Commission. But that's not the dirty money we are talking about. So, you know, following, in that period, even before the dirty money came up, it's important also to point out that my colleagues came to me and said, by the way, this struggle has taken too long. And people are growing old. People have become very poor. And they don't see where it will end. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And people are defecting one by one. And they pointed out those situations and whose situations had improved. And you know the ones in Teso who left us. From the Agnes Akiror to the Bukedea, later now, and what should we do? And they said they think we should change approach. Rather than continuing the fight as we lose people, maybe we should change approach and talk to the government as a team, as a whole group, and present our demands and negotiate. Maybe we get some, those we don't get, we wait. But we also now continue surviving. And they said even Museveni is growing old, maybe he will die, and a new situation will come. And I can say without, again, fear of any contradiction that I flatly said no. I don't think that's a good approach. I agree with everything you have said, that suffering of opposition people has increased. I agree it has taken a very long time in the struggle. But some struggles are not finished by those who started them. You know, so the people who started the independence struggle were no longer around when we got independence. But this capture of the state by Museveni is the biggest problem for Uganda. If we don't solve it, if we adjust ourselves to it, then our country is finished. We simply must fight on until it goes down. And, you know, clearly they didn't agree with me because, as I have said, later the issues of money came up. We tried to manage that within the party. We held several meetings. This is before the 2021 elections. That money was in fact to be used in that election. And that, you know, some people didn't see me campaigning in that election. The reason, indeed, I didn't go to campaign is not because I'm against Amuriat or what. I've told you where I came from with him. But we had now developed, because nobody consulted me about this. We tried to manage it. They were adamant. And so I considered that rather than making it an issue that could affect people that are not involved, let me just pull back. We go through the election the way we go through, whatever way we go through them, and then we try to deal with these problems afterwards. And that's what we tried to do. You know, we went through the elections and tried to resolve this thereafter. We held very many meetings. Unfortunately, they did not materialize. And let me say this. I have said that the money in itself would not be a problem. The problem is if the money achieves what the giver wants it to do. And Museveni gives money for two main reasons. First, he doesn't want all people he has captured who may be in different parties to work together. He wants each one to remain on their own. And I've told you that the challenge I got trying to unite these groups ahead of the election. So it was clear to me that it was being applied to its purpose. Because we uniting people who are all in prison. For me, I look at ourselves as all in prison. Whether you are in prison wearing blue, whether you are in prison wearing red, whether you are in prison wearing yellow. Even the yellow people are in prison with us. Some of them don't know. But we are all in the same prison. And so, for me, I think that it makes sense for all prisoners, regardless of color, to work together to fight and break out of the prison. That is a matter which they have rejected since that time. I think now, indeed, very much similar to what General Muntu was saying, that they want to build the party, build the structures. Okay, building the structures is good, but unite with the others to fight. Secondly, is to now demonize defiance. Because some people maybe think that you can go to an election and Museveni will say, you have defeated me now. And he organizes a handover party at Kololo, and Museveni comes and hands over to the winner, whether it will be Nandala or whoever, he comes and hands over. That, in my own mind, will never happen. Museveni will never announce any other person in the election he has organized. And I have told you, all power is held by him. There is no power in parliament. Let nobody tell you lies that I am going to parliament to do work for you. There is no power in parliament. You have seen soldiers enter parliament and beat up everybody in parliament. And the Speaker of Parliament, Kadaga, crying, who beat us? I did not invite anybody to come. You know? So, all power, we must fight to release the power where it is, which is with Mr. Museveni. Because some people confuse power with offices. Think if I am a mayor, I have power. You don't have power. You can only do what Museveni allows you to do. I am a councillor, I have power. No power. I'm an MP, I have no power. You have an office, not power. So, the real challenge was not with the money, but how the money was managed. And up to now, that is still the problem. Because subsequently, rather than managing it within the party structures, the National Executive Committee, which the party president chairs, stopped functioning, stopped calling it, it never met during this whole crisis. And nobody else has power to call it. What they had agreed on to do was never done. And that's why the party chairman stepped in to try and help to resolve the crisis, to call the National Council, to call the National Delegates Conference. And what happened in those matters, you all know. You saw the party chairman climbing walls when he had been detained in the party. The constitution is very clear. Only the party chairman can call a delegates conference. Only the party chairman can call and chair the National Council. So, they have created a crisis by not allowing those organs of the party to function. And instead, started creating a new structure, holding what they called elections without the proper procedures being undertaken, and in many ways selective processes of getting leaders. So the other contradiction then became how to renew the leadership of the party, whether the elections were held as provided for in the constitution. And I'm sure even here in Teso, I have been, when I was in Amuria especially, I found people there they have two leaderships. Some who were selected and some who were elected. And they are all there, you know. So that confusion, all this confusion, if there is goodwill, it can be resolved. Even now, all this confusion can be resolved. If there is goodwill, there is nothing that cannot be managed. Unfortunately, up to now, I have not seen that goodwill to resolve this. So how do we go forward? Maybe you...
NRNC, betoma 2018, okaru ngoni geneta so NRNC bulu lo amuriat. Uloto bere area mupure nesi. Osonese amaiki ni kwesi be young mama losi aigo. Osre kwese ketakila bobo. Abongo reke in 2020 enyi tinesibe kwane kutoja igo kape presidential candidate Tomaseo na Neboniti. Ebala nesi bonbe mamnga pedori alosi Tomaseo na nara limokiti suseki be fumi mambo alosi kwa naja una hii Tomaseo na ogene sa limokina muri atona chaoke poa be kutodo kwa nija kapani kini anu ayangari ebupate ngaren ulos kwa nijo aigo anu aseo na kape president. Balanesi bonwe kwa ni bore polo imametisi rigin an mamjire candidate lo general noi ilosi ai tama anyu oso desa yao na ke idea na balabe mam kwa neja inu puda yugo ine eja kait bobu wine banu bonyo mamo ni isomanaro anyu ndagon bebi dukuno ni epa peron kapo position peroro ni isomanaro mame gurupu ngoni lo apoa obu ocham osona bonesa maikin kwes be do beri kwani di lo sona se ona ni kapaina ara imam be bas kwesi be kapaina so opot kweso ya utu idea ara igene na bala bonbe kutokwa ni ayao ni national chairman do neri mora Uganda kere anwa ina kine poa ajenari ojenete da kwesi be poa ne selosi abolo anu kape president konilo FDC Tomaseo na daunu paki obugo nesi nereda be kwana kronu polo bia ebo kwani pero rajo adumu ni kapunu ngunu dile lo seta gangaki ni jo mamu etime poa obiner maiki nesibe aibo kwani lo so adumu ni sirigini obugo nesi da in nere ba polo oni anyu nda bisipo kino ni epolani ara iko ne biro ngoni ari kutoja lo city aseo kutoje campaign biro amamei osebo nesi I think kwesi bonbe inyo kwa ni bore ewo mitijo be inaino netele kari aseo are mamo ni rai organize efesinga kwa ni tungalelu araso organize lo anu plu agogo bunesi lip meeting ngoni ajaun tia poa ko de side je ayimi mamobu opedore opupundo kwa nesa agirong na bakai apotikapu bunesa otama akirong na nyara anu neria mununu ru anapu oreke ngina anwai tama kirong ete mokini mama lepuno kinga mami tunga okopotu orimasi no bala nesimo kwedo do berikapu nulu idumu to seso do jeneta yeso da bonbe president Museveni arele mike kapun aina kini esu ereke kapunulu aitiake pate ngoni ara itiake esulu utase je mamnesi chama ini tunge murkikini apugani ke anuitunga kwa nanyu na bonbelo seti itunga jaunu aseone baka free and fair ija ine seto somi kapunu anu kwa nesa pega kini o waila itia kikapuni inete dabo bo esi benyo obuneso tama kapa nesi ngiti bedo kwa no rengi na ejaje support oro reda manu akiro no poto chautu konye nesi kapa Dr. Besigye imame ni Saturnis koleja kaite poa ibore ne utanes kapa kwapo esa anyu bonbe dumne titunga freedom edumni Uganda aseona ini lajara edumni Uganda peruso oselbo nesene bimuro kiti tunga I mean bo ni kere ikote mor kikin oni kirijai ojera ro prison ari rajolo FDC arajolo DP arajolo NRM ijai jo prison ngoni lo weni tere jo mametako na pedoroso iyata si chan sebala nesi bonbe bala ida ngoni lo libalo ne warden ngoni prison warden era makine sawa ijai nesa aira metunga bebolo masolo masitoma dodo kwa nini bunia bobo prisoner dare bore constable remuni bongonda kwa ne warden be warden olo majo da igo ikine tedo kwa ni to ni jeda na le rusita yesu alilo maritoma ejai ngonda mi ikine toma bolu mas dobere yesu ne sebala ne sibonbe bapugana ateker na iteso ni pupete radio inerite esi koto ne mor kikena anyunda bonbe ngunu litepegeta pugan adoketa itana epolo pedorete ai top no ai na peta no abate mno waingoni lo leso amanar ineta bobonesi be mamerai abate be bobonesi ojala kamuriata obunesi iri amunu kode ngunu ogene sa maiki ni kwese keche intention be mamunga jaun aseo ne buni omo utukwa ni su ingare non are candidate ngoni lelo si erimor Uganda kere ilipite iurianlu oyu Uganda bose utungo kapa mine presidential candidate osoda bonesa yaun bobobe ajakiro no aina kitunga lepo alunganare basi tunga bo yanga ikona ujau itepegi Museveni ateneru tukwane neru oina ino ni positions bala neso boesi ulime mam yongo kapa Besigye mamera yo ni ipido la down nyo igielo konye gielo itiloto neru ka Museveni mamo ni pedo rikwa ni etele kare kapo position adu mtibero ne strategy le pedo la swam nare kwa ni tungani maritesi bitunga lopoti defect ngati geneta so jafa kiror geneta so na polo na irabet ipwetu ngalo poto nyoutu FDC itono bukete ngini neritesi dodo kwa ni tunga lulu FDC lo they were not patient ara iluche la pa kitos amama titi ngini na balabe o let's struggle kamera pugani etete kwa ni tunga be bobore ajala kona se onkape minister oborase onukapa ambassador oborase onkape commissioner loase onukapa RDC sebala nesu bonbe amamus kode hope ara muno ngini eso kwa ina kitungali po kwa ne ya unete kunya upata la FDC anudo kwa ni kwesalo city eitenga ni be aibode pedo kwa ni kwesi aldumu ni bore ni nyamete konye eke position abalanes be mam ekote FDC opaki morkikena konye do kwa ntungalu opotoa olimutu bejielo anga ikao jau emame ibori teiso ageunu in 1996 olosio 2001 olosio 2006 I mean 2011 16 now then 21 itungali pe basbe amojo ngongo imami boradu mutengo ojalu kwa ne defection eja itunga kwa nao momo be binyobodo kwa ni adu munengo so patience ara titing nesima mngareno ko lipo eja ata low position ema mosques kode atiting ngini na be no kwa ne giele struggle lolo eche generation de pedora angari ngaren e kama telo kwa na pugani so inete sakroni pu da jeni obesu lipu peta musugun konya nu kwanto ngakolu okwapu ngunu inete sinu ipo be amame long angoni la baka be poa nyo nesiber batamit ebo inikini kodeda etima muntu beno ebo kilos de swama pa mine swama ta nepepe konye mamitunga cha mutosilu epu etete itunga individual benefit basi beno yonga kutunga lo stadu muni bore anga ke struggle pakina nyo e oye sa teker eraiberi ngunu disina pero ngeju lakinesu.
All right, Doctor, continue.
Yes, I'm winding up on this point. How do we get out of this situation? First of all, so there are two things. I have pointed out that the trouble we got into as FDC, it's not just FDC which is in it. DP is in the same problem. UPC was the first one to get into problem. NUP is now in a problem. And if you trace where all these problems come from, they come from where I started. The capture of our country by the family of Mr. Museveni. Mr. Museveni and Family Limited. That's where all these problems start. So, to get out of this, first of all, I think what the party is doing, consulting the party members on the way forward, is a good thing. And it could translate into processes that lead to reconciliation maybe and a unified way forward. That is one end, which would be a happy end. It could end in the disagreements being entrenched and generating two different groups. That is another end. But whichever way that disagreement ends, let nobody deceive themselves that Uganda will have a solution to all these problems without removing the source of our trouble, the capture of our country by a family. So that's why the reason for me, the bigger reason for me why I'm moving around this, because the party leaders could have done this themselves. But the reason I move around with them is because they are refugees at Katonga. And I consider that the purpose of Katonga, of uniting all Ugandans to rid themselves of the capture of our country, to regain control over our country, is the most foremost and most urgent thing that we must look at. And this is why I am rather disappointed when I hear people talking just about the elections of 2026. Because we know that those elections organized by Museveni will announce him as the winner. The fight must start now. People must be woken up. And this message, I especially direct it to the young people. Because we have done our own fights. I am nearly getting to 70, which is the year the Bible gives us. We have done our fight. But the young people who are living in a country that is not theirs must quickly organize. And we shall help them to the extent we can to free our country. And that is the most urgent and important message that I move with. It's possible to regain our country even this year. It's not too late to regain our country this year if we do the right thing. If not this year, at least next year. But to sleep that you are waiting for an election that is being organized by those who captured our country is to really betray the country. So the way forward is, first of all, as FDC, let's go ahead and resolve the problems internally. But whichever way you resolve them, let's unite every Ugandan, whether you have a party, whether you don't have a party, whether you were deceived and you think you are part of the government putting on yellow. It's the time to come. This is not a fight for parties. Liberation is not a fight for parties. It's a fight for everyone who is under capture. So that's why the religious leaders must be on the front line, on this front line. The government servants must be on this front line. The soldiers, whom as I have told you are also captured. I told you Museveni started the capture by capturing NRM and capturing NRA. So the soldiers are captured, and that's why now they are headed by his son, who will soon, maybe, according to his plan, become the commander-in-chief. So the soldiers must free themselves because they are under capture. And the most worst of course, are the policemen who are sent after us. But the policemen, there is nobody who suffers in this country, public servant that suffers in this country like a policeman, you know. Paid very little, no, you know, welfare situation at all, living in terrible conditions, can't educate their children, forced to beg and become corrupt, picking petty money. So all of us must join hands and free our country. It's extremely urgent. If we waste time that we are squabbling between, I don't know whether it's FDC this, FDC that, Museveni is happy and putting his leg on the other one and sipping his tea. So the less time we spend on these small quarrels, the better. And we focus on the bigger fight that must involve those who are not FDC. And we liberate our country. That's the way I think we need to go.
Inheritinesi, bene omite esi be FDC, mamere pate lo soliti, atere kini kantioni sena, na estate arapu gane kamali. Kwenye bale esi, bibore polo, nwebe eto na itupo kapa epate lo FDC. Na sodit, aripedoro ni ete mona tioni sena. Asoto na bongu aswamle pepe. Na yare te bala nesi bonwe. Bara ida kwa ninge takoni. Aduku nweche grupu. Mamne de rono. Konye bala nesi. Be mame ibore ne pedo reswa maunu. Ene joko. Di kamana kuna seo. Arera Museveni. E president la kwa panam. Are ngare nun. Inerda bonesi. Be tungale ya itos edini. Yara bishops. Ara imunulu ya itos aswam the civil servants isoma kala pugan also the civil society munulu swama ete kude NGOs ane inera bonesi baada president Museveni ya kamera jore also de gwaini ke general mozi aswam anyu ni da bunbi bikiari ni munulu ipo kama after mami kiari ni munepedo te kwa bobo ai mwange kisele itimiti besi policy no Uganda. E balada bon baby policy ni lo Uganda. Bora ina kido munu eja ibore dit kitu kidogo. Raido kwani ichani kech. Lumame pedonatari idweda ayanga rosemero. Banesi da bon be public ara itunga lu I mean munu lu ejasi Uganda. Kotokwesi na so itokwenyu tu. Anyu da bon be ba pedonoso kech. Ekoto oyongi tete. Osoda bone sange takin. Be struggle are jiele jai. Mamera ni kamana la kude nesi ekati Besigye ikamala kode Uganda nisikiere na arai atumunaka luipu kopana atumunaka lipu solo pete kwa rike karu adola kaisa kanyare yapikiriza kaisa kanyare ne balanese da bebo baibuli mamu epata na kwani etwena ijara de pari karungun are jarada era kerere nkapa na United la suban so itamita mitesi But the younger people are tungangunule dishak. Ikotokwani omisikisi. Be nyakare akwap ara pedor na akwapan o Uganda. Ijakari ni kech. Kunye kwesilu luamojo ngatika skuo. Mamu nese pedori eseja resi. Rimordo kwa akwapana akere Uganda. Ili pite nesi tunga adoke na anwe gitigita. Ai tupu ne balanesi bondo bitunga. Iyatakino si bakor. Iyatakino si loni na kwap. Angaleu. Erangaleu da kwa nina etiona dumu. Kunyakiro ni kamanara kudekwesi. Na remote to kwesa kwapu kere to consult. Mamera ibitijete kwesi ilwe poa. Just kwesi da amiseki. Bakiro ni kapu. Nata mtosi kwese nere. Mama lo munu kingade date mane bokwe. Bia ipedo rode te moking. Akironu. Anuitunga lipwa miseki. Kunyakiro munu kere. Mamu epedore. Neti bonesi. Ejigurupu nu iare. Lukwani ejasi. Tomaseo ngini na FDiskata mulia. Ebanesi baji gurupu ni yari. Ajailo aseo tai itunga. Dajailo poni bekakin e bekakin. Ekapeche guru. Ebanesi be no kape pate. Mamo ni pedori. Aswam kuri gurupu nulu epo. Lugarin tose pate. Mame patana. Dobo ilipite nesi. Bare pedori. Echamtina chana da kui. Kure kwesebo ikine kwapu. Osote temoini akiro. Tomadoketa itane joko. Boikino skwes kape pate. Mamne se girit. Osote kwese tamitama. Agkiro. Dobo benge takinesi. Neritesi. Bare giro to. Do kwesi. Mamachi. Epidote do kwesi dabo. Beso amau dobo. Eche gurupu. Konye keli pebaniswa. Lema re dictator Museveni. Mame patana. Areti akati akanyo. Itunga. Ilipinesi bekoti tunga. Imori kikinos. Iswama takati neteso. Ejati yoksonwe poloko. Ebale kanol. Bitunga lo teso. Ekotese morikikini. Akwapu kere. Eje morikikini anyunda bonibe. Mamu apu gana Museveni. Epedo renyi kokila lo sit. Akonye. Nara ijasko de ationisi na epol. Owaile epedotra requesti. Luite pegete. Morikikini. Ejati akatiaka kidingineni. Ne yaune rikapun. Ne yaune reposition. Ne yaune riboroli po. Anu kwa na yaune disunity. Itunge peget. Otupito siborolu. Lekamana kode yongo. Ebinyadu muni wakapa ngochole. Seba neswe kade kanselan. Kade MPs. Imamusko da pugani. Ile na meya. Imamusko da pedori. President Museveni. Ise jasko da ke pedori. Na ada lemari. Otunga kere. Yalama.
About 20 minutes to the top of the hour, I want to bring back to Doctor briefly so that we shall be able to pick calls in a minute.
Oh, thank you very much. I had almost concluded what I wanted to say. The point here is that, you know, the poverty that is everywhere, the suffering, you know, the people of Teso used to be one of the richest in Uganda. And, you know, they educated people, they had, you know, a strong culture that was admirable. Their cows were taken, broken down. There have been endless begging, compensation, I don't know what. You will not beg, you must go and collect your money yourselves. Take power. So the solution for all these problems that are there, you know, the Kajongs who have been terrorizing all these regions, you know, it's not that they cannot be controlled. They are tools that are used to weaken and terrorize people. So you have to be determined, and especially the young people. Everywhere you go, I'm talking to the young people, because our own time is used. You know, even when the country changes, it's the young people to enjoy it. But Don't be confused. You know, these elections, I have told you, have been commercialized. Where does the opposition get money to put in elections in order to take power? In fact, when I was here, even for the by-election of Atan, I was concerned because I was here and I got here after a lot of problems. They waylaid me in Ginger, arrested me in Ginger. We had to escape to come to get here. But in that short time I was here, I found people saying that, you know, quietly, Alupo was supporting this camp. Quietly, Anita, I think, was supporting openly Ariku. But these are all, you know, okay, they may, you know, how we get money to fight elections, as I have said, can be creative. But the people who give support have interests. So elections, to look at elections as the way out of this capture, is something we should be careful about. And I'm not saying that we should not participate in elections, because again, some people say Besigye is against elections. No. But elections structured the way they are, if we are to get into them, we must go there with our own fighting force, which we can only build now. You want to go into the election and build the force within the election. That's why we must build the force now, start fighting now. If the election come before we have caused the change, we fight through the election. But now I have heard some people changing talk, saying, you know, if we use defiance, people will be arrested, people may be killed, people may... Yes, we have been in prisons many times. Some of our colleagues indeed have died, but it takes pain to get back the country.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Let's get to calls. Maybe...
Now,
yes.
Najari sini by election la jai ajitungane lu atiakaka aje grupu au vice president gamti Atan and aje grupu honorable speaker gamti jakaitari ko konyano temenesi balanesi bonbe okay biebe perra urupo sinadu mikapu anenere bonesi da bonbe mame sera against aseo ara be mame segiri taseo kwa ino kwa nitunga bo kwili juleta kwa nene lo se kwa bo ene bonbe nese gite sinyo aseo kapanesi konyi bore ne balanesi ni polo nesa tumunak ao momo ni po usodo ni nyiti ni kamera kule compensation la ituko itunga to continue to demand anyu na ida bonbe lo sapugani aitachi barene lu akoko ya ne kai boro lipo lu angara notes banes baraite eso abo sina som totori itunga noi dei nono kecheda arailo esima na atekere ni noipo na rasite solu apogasi konye ationi sina obu esina kona de marere ona barani enyakundo ni around kwanilu ilipanare esine balanesi bonbe koto atumna ka kwenyun esule dishak anyunda bonbe baseo erase ona ejoko konye pedore julano alomu erikaseo yalama
alama ateket pupi yo Kyoga Veritas portolo muno tido apakane akutongo jaitwa sam arere hai nomone simune tapao ni pedori au pani kidao mission itote mane koto mo studio itwa sama ije namba enoti kanyare ikanyoni kanyangon wongoni kanyape kida jiope anungo ngesi pedorajo alomnu no temo studio anujo dai keuno au mission kon tupte tenu de tetema ne polo kakirono ido akutonge jaona popolo soditane elo Veritas yoga noi Kyoga tibong ekiro. Olupod says Peter, you are calling us from where?
I am calling you from Ngora, but right now I'm in the city because we're meeting a doctor in the north.
Alright, your ideas.
I am the youth chairperson, this youth chairperson for Capri County. In fact, I got enough time today to talk with doctor, and we knocked it for that meeting. But we just didn't have enough time to give out views. But I thank God that we have enough time. There's like 5 resolutions that we might choose one from. But for me, I would go for 2 options. Option number 1, unite and dialogue and unite. Then option number 2 is from another person. In fact, Dr. Besigye and the team, Dr. Besigye and Amuya should know that we are crying for them. They are the ones holding FDC, and our part of FDC, we are fighting for FDC. This is the party we have hopes in. And if this party goes down, we shall make them accountable. Even our own children will be following them with this. So they should have a solution for us, and the solution should come very fast. Hello.
This is who? Oh, Molodio Promo Pio. Okay. Yes, you are take on this.
I wanted to know my view on what Doctor said. Yes, I was saying that, okay? There is nothing which is going to be good because now, Doctor will be given in their suggestion. I was suggesting that let's first of all power go so that when the person is part of the council of person, we might see also a development here. Because there's several things that will see from it. Nothing is going to change again.
Yalmano, kota jawne chetungana nane, yoganoi. Accurate. Good evening to you. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Yes.
You good for me, Dr. Kizza?
He's already listening.
Me as Richard. My brother. I've started first this since the time I started working up to now. I'm requesting my brother. Let them negotiate and let them sit with Amuriat, and we just come up with one idea. This issue of opening another political party cannot work.
Yes.
I'm crying for FDC and I love FDC. I don't know what I'll go. I don't know where I'll go when the FDC collapses in Uganda. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much, Richard. Let me get another person. Yes, hello.
Hello?
Yoganoi.
Yoga.
Accurate.
Naranjo Kiretenu, Harapai.
Etenu Arapa, yes.
Akotoma Hadimane Kanal Bonide. Apaki Verena Balaring Esibe, Barona Muriata, Barona and Nama Fobi. Kwana Bapo Mineto Katonda, Bumneva, Beneru, Bemortikuna. Dobra Paki, Mamma Jembe, Aragna, whatever the Tela Pola, make it Joro. It's okay. No one is going to give me a cocoa. I don't want to have a white jacket coin.
Yalmano, Michel Konda, Gessimon, a young and Veritas.
What did he say?
Etenu say that by the time you say that you are now coming to unite the two, actually the Katonga and the party of FDC that is there in Najana Kumbi, that where were you before that time
to talk
about unity by then? Then now you come and clearly say you now want to unite the party. Veritas. Hello. Accurate. Yes, Edonyu. Yes.
What is Najana and Katonga? And his enemies and what are Muriat? You are making it very easy. one of the because their behaviors are the ones giving Museveni chances.
Yalmano Jakaitetun. That Edonyo is calling us from Cabramayo. For him, he says, what is FDC in Nanyanakumbi and what is FDC in Ikatonga? Don't you think that you are giving Mr. Museveni chances to rule Uganda for years? Hello, last one now. Yes.
Hello.
How are you? Yes. Yalama no jakaiti ochuli alomu. Yes. Eja kaito chuli turian tenara sawa down sesa wan. Yalmano eja kaito chuli and he wanted yes, he wanted the Honorable Chole to do that translation. That is according to him. Yes.
Okay. He's saying, Dr. Besigye, that the assumption you have of power not being popular, it's a lie.
Not being popular.
Yes, countrywide. And he stated clearly that during the time of the reform agenda, they were the ones who actually popularized you. In the region, you were not popular, as they have also stated. And so therefore, it's important you work out a method outside criticizing President Museveni of always declaring himself as a winner. So why do you participate in that election that you know the outcome? In brief as that. Yeah, that is what is taken.
Right, about 4 minutes to the top of the hour, that will be 10 o'clock. I want us to get back to the studio to answer some of those few questions and also see a way of winding up our discussion of today.
Very well. I think I am grateful to all the callers and the messages they gave. First, Mr. Rupert and the gentleman from Marapai, I think, we are talking about dialogues to reunite. And the gentleman from Marapai was asking where we were not to start dialogue or to unite the party, and we are now starting now. He must not have listened to me, the one of Marapai, because I told you that we did what we could from the time before the last election. We held meetings before the last election. We held very many meetings after the elections. We did not succeed. And we can talk about why we did not succeed, but the point is that every effort was undertaken, but we did not succeed. I am not saying that no new effort can be made and may succeed. It has been raised that more effort should be done, and that's the point of Oluport. He says that more dialogue should be engaged. And I think even the Omolodio,
Omolodio, yes.
Omolodio also was keen on dialogue. And the party, I'm sure, will launch a process that can exhaust that channel. Because that's the reason we are moving around, getting ideas from the party owners who are the members of the party.
All right.
So everything should be done to ensure that, you know, any possibility of maintaining the party is done. And I have heard people, you know, talking about how they have suffered for the party. I don't know whether you also value my own suffering for the party. I don't know how many times I have been in prison, I have been shot, I have been tried on capital offenses, I have gone to exile for 4 years, living in exile is not easy. So there is no, if you talk about suffering for the party, I think I would be the last person to want to see FDC destroyed. But, you know, if the party was formed for a particular objective, liberation, if the party fails to liberate us, then we still must have liberation. And that is why, you know, the main point here is FDC was not divided for 17 years. It was not divided. It was one FDC and strong FDC. But even then, I have told you that we set up Katonga to unite our effort with the effort of all other Ugandans. So FDC by itself is not the medicine for liberation of Uganda. We must unite with everyone, whether political or not political, to liberate the country.
All right,
and so, while this squabble is going on, it should not stop the process that is needed to liberate the country. And that's why we are moving.
All right, Dr. It's already 10.
Lastly, John,
yes.
There was a gentleman who talked quite obviously like Anendare Mufero, the one who was talking about Paul was popular, he popularized me. If Paul popularized me, I am grateful that he popularized me. But this is not about me. This is about Uganda. Whether I am popular or not popular, what we want is a free Uganda. And we should not look at individuals. Tomorrow I may be dead, or even tonight. So this is not about me at all. It's not about power at all. And of course, if he was popular, you know, he was our presidential candidate, you know, and that popularity indeed had an opportunity to be tested. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very, very much for listening to us. The struggle to free Uganda is a tough one, and we must not give up. We must remain strong. There will be confusing agents who are propaganda coming all over the place. We must defeat the propaganda. We must defeat those who invest in dividing and causing us to conflict. We must defeat their money, which they have captured in the whole country and used to cause problems amongst us. We must defeat fear and take back our country. For me, I can promise you that as long as I breathe, I will remain on the front line, whether alone or whether with others, until our country is free. I thank you, and God bless you. God bless Uganda.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wanted, lastly, as we wind up, from